So hello, everybody. I am delighted today to welcome as my guest Ceri Griffiths of Willow Brook Lifestyle Financial Planning. Ceri, I'm so delighted that you've come to be my guest today because we met in networking and Ceri's energy just, I don't know, you just light up the room and you make things brighter just by being there. And I know that you are one of the most generous spirited people that I have ever met. You are so giving and so caring and nurturing, and in that real sense, not just in a superficial sense, but in a real deep sense. So yes, I am absolutely delighted that you've come today to be my guest. So I'd like just to start by asking you, can you tell me a little bit about your passion for financial well-being and what that means?
Absolutely. So I believe that money self-care is the ultimate self-care. Your money underpins so much of what you do. And there is a real weight that gets lifted when you feel in control and when you don't feel that money is controlling you, when that table is turned. And for me, having that overall well-being is really centered on making sure that your money doesn't take you off that path, that it doesn't become your focus and all you think about, but it doesn't become your worry, it doesn't bring your negative energy to it. It's just something that actually flows with you, makes everything work, and is just something that kind of just lightens the load, and you can make it actually work towards what you want to achieve rather than, like I say, being a big binding weight dragging you back.
I was just talking with somebody earlier about my concept of power and what real authentic power means, and that it's choice and creativity and connection. And I think that's exactly it as well, that money is just another form of energy. So it's not
Yeah.
something that we need to be attached to in any negative sense. It doesn't need to be that weight that weighs us down. It doesn't need to be that thing that is preying on our mind all of the time. So if we can get that sorted, then it just eases life in a sense. It just makes us able to do things.
It releases you, Robin. It really does. And there's lots of practical things. Like there's lots of practical things that you can do around money that will help breed that, and then lots of emotional things that you can do around it as well. And actually, when you're stuck with money, it's really useful to start with the practical things. The same way, like when you walk into your home, we're really different. I've been to Robin's homes, we're really different. So I'm a minimalist. My house is white and like everything is put away. And you're really homely, aren't you, Robin? You're like, there's comfort in the stuff around you. So whichever it is, like whichever person you are, when you walk into your home and you get that sense of peace, that sense of everything is how I want it to be. And you can create that with your money as well. And so for me, that with where kind of like how I work and how things show up for me is that actually having a really calming space, having a lot of structure, and having a lot of clear space really brings me an energy that kind of reinforces me, that energizes me. And so with money, what works for me is actually having really clear pots for what I'm doing, real clear structure around budgeting, really clear concepts and goals for what my money is doing for me. But a lot of the women I work with, it's more about actually assigning purpose to money and giving money purpose. And then when they've got a real understanding what they want money to do with them, then giving them the knowledge and the input to be able to make that happen. And when you've got those things sorted, so when you know where your money is, you know what's coming in, what's going out, you know what you need it to do for you, you know how it could be used to your advantage, and you have confidence that that's going to happen, just breathe. It just makes a big difference.
And I love so much of what you're saying there, that it's so much around the energy of how you feel and your relationship with money. And that whole concept of, and that's exactly kind of what I am supporting women in, and or people, mostly women, in getting back to that feeling at home. Like you say, going into your house
Yeah.
and feeling at home. Or I like to say, like coming home after a long day, taking off your shoes and just putting your slippers on. And that
Yeah.
I'm in the place where it's my happy space, it's my comfort space, it's my kind of safe space. I can be me. And I'm all about being true to me. So when your money is in alignment with that as well, and you know kind of how it's working for you, it's got its purpose, and you're not feeling burdened by it, it's not, you're not attached to it in any negative sense. It's so freeing, so liberating, so empowering. And I think that's
It is.
really why I so love what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And specifically, I work with women who are getting divorced. That's kind of my specialism. I work exclusively with women getting divorced. And for them, money is a real blocker. It's a real pressure point. Um, for so many reasons, you know, so many things can show up when you're getting divorced, and so many kind of people have this relationship with money, and this nervousness and this lack of understanding, this lack of control, and it just becomes such a focus, you know, all consuming. And in divorce, what actually happens is there's a barrier to them being able to move forward until they've got a real depth of understanding, so that they know what they're being offered, how it could work for them, and whether or not that's something that's actually going to work well. And what I do is just break that down and give them some real visuals of, okay, this is how the money could work, this is practically how it could look, and we put some what if scenarios in there, and they can just kind of, like you say, just kind of go, right, okay, I'm informed, I understand, I can make a choice, and then they can move forward.
And it is that fear, isn't it? Fear of the unknown if you haven't dealt with the finances in your home before, or you haven't had the biggest say in it, if you're not the major breadwinner or whatever. And the, just what can I, if I have this amount of money, what can I survive? Can I survive on that? Do I need more income? What are my options? All of these things that you don't need on top of the whole emotional roller coaster of getting divorced. And if you have children involved, obviously that layer as well. So the fact that there's somebody like you out there who's so easy to talk to and who can then just make it all so clear, make the fear go away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, you know, the reason that I think what I do works is because one of the other big fears that women have, one of the impressions that they have of financial advisors, of financial services, is that it's really big, it's really corporate, it's really austere. You have to be super wealthy to access it. You are going to be judged for your knowledge or lack of. And you are going to be given a whole load of complex information to digest. And actually, you know, I break all of that down. I'm just a real mum, and do you know what? I've got all this expertise. I know all this technical stuff. And what I can do is just bring out the parts that are relevant in the here and now. And we make those really understandable. So you are empowered and you do know what you need to know. But rather than thinking you have this big, huge mountain to climb, you're just actually addressing the thing that you need to address right now. Because I think that's another thing as women that we often do, is that we hold ourselves to a really, really high esteem. You know, we expect a lot from ourselves. So we wing it less, you know, and whereas a lot of men are willing to wing it when it comes to their finances, and they have more exposure and knowledge just through the course of the way their lives run anyway, and they're willing to wing it and they don't expect to know the ins and outs of everything. We set ourselves this picture of, gosh, finances, I've got so much to learn, and that's going to be a real battle. And what I do is just kind of break that down and kind of go, look, stop being a perfectionist here. This is what you need to know in the here and now, and let's get you really confident with that, and you can make some great decisions. And then when you need to know about the next thing, we'll talk about the next thing. Or when we need to know 3 steps ahead, we talk about that now, so you feel prepared, but rather than it feeling like you've got this overwhelming amount to learn.
And that's so wonderful to have somebody with those expertise who is so accessible on so many levels and just easy to talk to, and takes away the mystery, because it's the mystery that is the fear provoker,
Yeah.
really, isn't it? And the expectations, as you say, and the culture of finance is big, and it's, like you say, corporate, and it's also often seen as being male anyway. The financial advisor is seen as being male, as well as the man is often seen traditionally as the breadwinner, or the one who holds the person in the family. So to be able to see somebody who is another mum, a grounded, just regular mum, but who has the expertise that I need and that I can talk to, and that she will just set it all out for me clearly as and when I'm ready or I need it. That's amazing.
And I think we need more of it, Robin. So kind of my big game is to really, really shake up financial services and bring the feminine energy to it, because we have such strengths to bring from that place, and we really could do with some rebalancing there. I think what they've got going on is brilliant. You know, the technical side of things. I think in terms of how it works, the strengths of the male energy are really there. It's just missing that female energy and that chance to actually say, okay, let's make it accessible, let's make it human, let's bring it to a place where people want to engage because it becomes part of their lives rather than something that they dip in and out of.
Yes, to make it part of the norm.
Oh, you cut out there. What did you say?
Just to make it part of the norm, that it is just an everyday thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be some big mystery.
Absolutely, yeah. An everyday thing and an inspiring thing, you know, that people are thinking about their money in a way that overall adds to their well-being rather than it becoming a job, a task, or worry.
Yes. And I love how much you talk about energy and rebalancing, because I think that's so necessary. And to bring in the yin and the yang. I know we talk about the masculine and the feminine, but it doesn't have to relate to men or women, but the yin and the yang.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, I use those terms because they are typically where you find those energies, but I have a lot of masculine energy about me, and a lot of, you know, when I'm doing the action, when I'm doing, you know, that kind of masculine energy. But yeah, I've not used yin and yang, but actually I'm going to use that, Robin. I love that. Yeah,
I think
definitely.
just sometimes it gets a little bit twisted now, because we then are labeling that's male energy, that's men are like that. And it doesn't have to be. There are a lot of men who are really grounded and nurturing and all of these things that we would say is the feminine, but it doesn't have to
feminine energy. Yeah. And it's pulling on both of those, like using the strengths for both of those. And that's where I think financial services has fallen down, is that it hasn't pulled on that other strength yet. And we pull that in there, we could fly. And that's my big game. And that's kind of what I'm pushing, kind of using my male energy, like really pushing to get change.
And that's so fantastic, because I think that's coming against a culture that has become quite old and stale, in a sense, hasn't it? So giving it that new lease of better, more balanced energy, because neither the yin nor the yang, the male nor the female in itself is healthy. We need both, like you say, to have that balance. If it was too much feminine energy, it wouldn't work either.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I think so I am a feminist, and that's been part of my journey, part of the reason that I've got to the space that I'm in. And I think feminism has got to a place where we're actually stronger for recognizing that, actually in a place where we've recognized that the yin and the yang together are important. It's neither one nor the other. And I think that's actually quite a recent journey, Robin. I don't think we could have really said that we were there, you know, 5-10 years ago. I know I certainly wasn't. You know, kind of my backstory goes back quite far. Like when I was in school, I had a perception of what success was, and, you know, self-imposed, or probably environmental, nurture, whatever, but not something that was told to me outright. But for me, success was about doing really well in what I considered the harder subjects like maths and science. And I went on to do a maths degree, all because actually that's what I perceived was more successful, although I'm really much more a natural linguist and an artist, and had I gone with my strength and my joy, that's the route that I would have taken. And so that's been a real journey for me to actually lean into those sides of things and not see them as weakness, because I personally had seen them for weakness. And it's only as my career has developed and I've started to see the coaching that I was doing with others, the value that they were getting from the yin side of me, the yang, whatever we want to call it. And I could see, oh, actually, while I'm really strong in the one sense, I have so much to bring in the other. And it's flipped, like from kind of being in this person who was always kind of in the yang to being this person who's now primarily in the yin. It's really flipped. And I love it. I just absolutely love the difference that you can bring by making something that feels like it should be a certain way far more accessible.
Yeah, thinking outside of the box and bringing in all of that new and innovative stuff, I think it's just magical.
Yeah.
And I love that it's coming together for you in this way. And I can just see you light up when you talked about that, how you've flipped it, how you've turned it on its head, how you're leaning more into the artistic side of yourself. And like I've seen that with your CAM program that you've just been putting together, because I think that is just so beautiful, and the brochure that you've had created and everything, it's just such a fantastic vision, but a very yin feel to it, a very yin energy to it. So I love that, the fact that you're kind of taking your journey that you've been on, that's been quite yang, in a quite yang environment, but managing to flip it completely, make it more yourself, and it shines.
Yeah.
So that thing of being your true self.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. It is my true self. And I didn't know it. It's not like I've been faking for all these years. I was successful. I had a great career. But you kind of get to a stage of life where you just become more self-aware and you're able to identify the things that really resonate for you. And this does, this is right. This is where I'm meant to be. And this is really adding value, really, really making a difference.
And I can see and hear that in you, that it's just that sense of, I am where I'm meant to be. I'm doing what I'm meant to do. I'm being myself. I'm being authentic. I'm being congruent. So everything's flowing in alignment, not that a bit here and a bit there, and it's not really coming together, but it's just in flow now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't have even known how that felt, 10 years ago, me didn't even know how that felt.
It's amazing.
I feel really blessed.
It's just, yeah, and it just shines out for you, but it's like just that last little bit in a circuit that connects up and the light bulb lights up, or the piece in the jigsaw puzzle and you can see the picture, where all of a sudden, yes, and almost, why didn't I see this before, when I can now see it so clearly?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. And then the more you see it, the more you find other people who see it. I think one of the reasons you and I, we met at networking, but the reason that our friendship has developed is because of that, because, it was just that sense of, we both know what this is. I find it harder to articulate than you do, because you have more depth and grounding in it, but we both know what this feeling is.
And sometimes there aren't any words. It's more when you talk about it and I see you light up and I see your whole body language, just, it becomes, when you talk about these things and you feel that potential, it's expansive, isn't it? It's growth, and it just, your whole body language reflects that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And actually, so the journey that I go on with the women that I work in, they quite often will get some support, some emotional support, some healing support, because of the huge trauma that they're going through. And then obviously the work I'm doing with them in itself can be really constructive and really, powerful and kind of moving them forward. And I see that in them. I see them move through their divorce, and there becomes a tipping point where what we're talking about is their future far more than their past. And it's so exciting, and it's so, I feel so lucky when I'm with these women and I see that moment happen. And actually, when we're doing some planning, we're not just talking about, okay, what happens in the here and now. We're talking about the life that she's imagining and the life that's going to happen for her, and kind of seeing her kind of just relax into things and get hopeful and excited about what it's going to look like.
And just that beginning of blossoming. I was going to say
Yeah.
to you, you were talking about mindset and the beliefs that we might have taken on board as we were growing up, or wherever they come from, that inner voice that tells us, oh, you're no good with money, or well, you've never had to deal with money and it's big and it's scary, and you don't know all this financial world. The whole mindset and all of the attachments and mind monkeys that we have around money, and particularly for women, I think when they're getting divorced, it's a time, having been there myself, of feeling at a really low ebb, feeling like your self-confidence and your self-worth have been squashed into the floor. So it's not a time when you're feeling very empowered. It's not a great time for having to make decisions because your brain just isn't like working on all four cylinders. So to have somebody like you who comes in and goes, it's okay, breathe, the breathe. I love always the pause, the breathe, get grounded again, then you can start moving forward. So can you talk a little bit around that?
So you cut out a little bit there, but I got the main gist of what you were saying. So you were talking about kind of the grief that women go through, and at the point that they need to make some decisions, and how actually making those decisions, I think the bit that I missed was where you're talking about that can be really grounding, actually getting to a place where you feel in control and you feel empowered can really be empowering, can really make you feel that you're ready to move forward. So what I do with women is first of all make sure that they don't feel like they have any gaps in their knowledge, kind of on a bespoke basis. Make sure that they don't ever feel like they're the underdog, because when you are divorcing and you feel like your ex is far more likely to be able to manage the finances and the financial decisions, it can make you really wary of what you're agreeing to. So the first thing is just really making sure that they never feel like that, and we fill in any knowledge gaps. And then the second thing is just making sure that they've got a real clarity of what it is that they want, because it isn't about winning and losing. It's the law will have an impression of what's fair, and it will come out to what is fair for either party. But what you want needs to be something that you've really thought through. And rather than getting into a battle of kind of minds and a battle of winning versus losing, if you just always have in your mind, okay, what's going to work, how's that going to work, the way that the law works is that it will pull that for you. It's going to make it fair, it's going to make it equal. And generally the women I work with, when you pull it down to its nuts and bolts, they are not greedy. It's very rare that I get anybody who I'd ever say was greedy. They just want their fair share and their money to be able to work in a way that actually provides a lifestyle that they can maintain. And fair share doesn't always mean 50-50, actually. And I think that's where we get this impression that women are greedy, because often it means that a woman gets more than 50-50 because that's fair, because she has less potential for earnings, she has given up a career, she has raised the children, all the complex reasons why. But we get to a place where there's a real kind of depth within her that she is comfortable with what's been proposed, why it's been proposed, and how it's going to work for her.
And I love that you say, because I've never really thought of this before, that the law will make it fair. And it's not necessarily equal or equitable in that sense, but the law will make the decision that it deems is fair. You don't need to worry about that. That really takes a load off, doesn't it? You just, whoa, that's not my concern. I can just say, through you can know what you need, you can know how to do your best to get that, and the law then will decide this is the fair outcome, and that's the decision. So the decision and everything is out of your hands. It's not something that you need to worry about.
Absolutely. And I think what often happens is there becomes this and an expensive fight, and that picture gets lost. And kind of where this fight comes from, Robin, is that there's often not enough money to go around. You know, you've got one household, it's splitting into two, and other than the wealthiest, there's going to be sacrifice, and it's just getting comfortable with, okay, that I need to acknowledge the fact that there isn't enough money to go around. It's going to be a fair outcome, and actually this is how we can make it work. And the more you fight against that, the more pain there is in accepting it, you know.
Absolutely.
And actually the quicker you can get to a space where you are able to picture how you could make it work, because you can make it work,
And
the better.
That's wonderful as well, that you hold that belief when the person maybe themselves can't at that point, but you hold that belief, that truth, that it will work. We will get to the point
It will work.
where it actually works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because when you remove the emotion and the attachment of winning, and you pull it more into the life that they want to live and how we can do that, we can make it work. You know, if you're going to be in a place where all you care about is him being punished, you've got some emotional stuff to deal with first before. And that's, you know, when I have, because it does happen, you know, it's, God, it's so painful. And when it does happen, it's just pulling in people like you and coaches and people who can just help work through those emotions. Because while I do hold that space for women, obviously I'm a financial advisor, and it's personal space that I'm holding for them, kind of experience. And, you know, if it's really big stuff, you know, even if it's small stuff, they need professionals like you to actually go, okay, let's work through this. Let's kind of move this forward.
Yeah, I think that's so true. That energy is just so detrimental, and you know, on so many levels. Absolutely, that needs to be released, it needs to be let go, and then you can move forward and not have that dragging you back and dragging you down. Do you get many women who feel guilty because
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And and feel that they will be considered greedy. So they aren't greedy, but are worried that people think they were greedy, and actually are trying to settle for less than is fair because of the guilt or because of the sense of feeling greedy. Kind of almost like they're trying to fix the problem by not taking any of the money, and that's not really how it works, Robin. You know, it doesn't fix the problem. You know, that you, even when they're not the ones who've chosen to end the relationship, there's still a lot of guilt that women can carry for the change in their family circumstance for their children, because they weren't good enough for the husband to stay. You know, there's that sense of, you know, if I had been better, if I'd only just, then the children wouldn't be losing their dad. And there's a lot of that happens, and a lot of sense of kind of, if they have been the one who's chosen to end that relationship, not wanting to pursue money, kind of almost punishing themselves. And that takes a lot of work. I've got a client at the moment, actually, and the solicitor contacted me and she said, I can't sign this off. You know, what she's trying to agree, no court will agree this is fair. She's not getting enough. And so I'm going to have a conversation with her next week and just say, we need to go back to this. We need to kind of revisit this. It's not just you saying you're happy with this. The court's got to sign it. There's a consent order, a court has to sign it, and they have to be happy with it. And like, if we're telling you that's not right, we need to figure out why you feel it is. So yeah, loads of guilt.
And that's, I was thinking that earlier, and stuff that you were saying around sort of mindset that people have. What is going on? And it's such a big learning, isn't it, when we can take it and explore it. Why do you have these beliefs, and such a great potential for growth when, with your support, people can get to see that was a non-true belief. Actually, the true belief is that I am entitled, worthy of this money, of this support, that it is just another form of energy. It's not something that you need to feel guilty about. It's not about a win. It's not about punishing somebody else or yourself. It just is.
No,
And I love
just
as
is.
well what you've just said, that the court, the solicitor was saying that the court is going to come back and say, this won't work, we won't sign this off. So just as a reassurance for any women out there to know, the court is on your side as much as the other parties. They're not going to make you do without. They're not going to side if the other party, if you feel that they're trying to take too much or whatever, they're not going to go with that either. They are going to look for what's fair.
Absolutely. And I think where there is this sense of greed and this sense of winning and losing, it's really a lot of it comes from the press, from the media, who talk about women winning a court case or women taking his money. And like, that's just not how it is, Robin. It's family money. She's not taking his money. It's her money. It's family money. And it's just, I think there's a lot of work to do in the media to kind of change that perception of, just because the woman wasn't the earner, it was still her money. The contribution she's made through raising that family, through supporting his career, through being the one who's kind of all hours worked with the children so that he could go off and kind of really make sure that their career was flying. That's valid. That's huge. And that's a family choice that they made. But actually the media aren't on board with that at the moment. So they see it as his money because he's the one who physically earns it. And there's a lot of change that needs to happen there, a change of language. So it's not winning, losing, his, hers, it's theirs, and it's sharing.
I'm very much passionate about how we use our language and being clean with our language and not the inferences that are sometimes trickled in there subtly. And it's probably your linguistic tendencies that really picks up on all of that. And I think it's not, I wouldn't even say that I would blame the media completely, because I think they just are using the language and the terms that we buy. That's what sells. And if we as a society said, that's not true, I don't want to buy that paper, I don't want to listen to that report, I don't want to read that tweet or whatever it is. If we voted with that kind of voted with our feet, voted with our fingers, and avoided things like that sort of story, that sensationalism, that big drama news, then it would no longer be big drama news. It would no longer sell papers or whatever. So I think often the media gets blamed for these things, but the media, that works for them because that's what we buy.
They're feeding hunger, yeah.
So it's cyclical, The more they feed, it's like the more you eat sugar, because it's like cocaine, it's actually addictive. The more you want it. So the same sort of thing, the more we get into this sense of drama, the more it becomes an itch that you want to scratch and you want more drama and more. The problem is it goes bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think we can see that in the media, lots of other things.
Yeah. I bury my head in the sand. Do you? I don't like it. I don't watch it. I don't read it. I kind of try. I try and get my news third hand through my husband. And just kind of say to him, what's going on that I need to know about, and then I might read some stuff, but I would never pick a newspaper up. I couldn't. I think like even now when I think about it, my heart sinks. I know that feeling of reading a newspaper. It's not for me. So I keep abreast of the financial news, and I keep abreast of everything else through my husband, and head in the sand.
I don't know if it's head in the sand. I think it's choice. I think it's, I keep quoting this, but it's like that story of the Native American story of the two wolves. Which one do you feed? Do you feed the sensationalism and the media hype and it's negativity largely, and it probably plays into our negative bias that we have in our primitive brains, which is a survival mechanism to keep us safe. But when we can be conscious of that and we can then choose, I'm going to listen to that because this situation really does need me to just be reactive and keep safe, or I'm going to evaluate that and see, does that ring true for me? Does it feel supportive? Or like you say, does it just make my heart sink? Does it make my stomach want to go through the floor? In which case, I don't need it. It's not helping me.
you're right. It's about those choices. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked a little bit about your backstory. Can you tell me your why have you chosen to focus in the way that you have on supporting women who are going through divorce? Why that particularly?
So I always knew I was going to run my own business, and I always knew that I was going to be I was going to come back to advising. So I've been a financial advisor for 20 years, but the last 5 of which I was a coach to other financial advisors. But I knew I was going to go back. And then a few kind of circumstances in my life, the universe kind of threw a few things at me that helped me realize that the time was now. One of them was I started working with a firm of financial advisors. And so the reason that I'd stopped being a financial advisor is because I didn't know like the rationale behind it. I just knew that it felt wrong, and I was like always uncomfortable, and it was always a slog, and it was always kind of quite hard work. But I didn't want to leave financial services because I'd spent like this whole journey getting there, loads of qualifications to get there, and I'd found that I was really quite a good manager of other people, and I'd moved the career path, and I'd done the coaching, and the coaching was just amazing. So I loved that. So I started working with this firm of financial advisors, and they just had a really different approach. And I observed them, and I was like, oh, this is it. And it's called lifestyle financial planning. So rather than financial advice, which very much focuses on products and performance and growth, lifestyle financial planning focuses on the meaning of money for you, the opportunities it creates, the purpose and depth behind money for you. And I just hadn't seen it. So this was probably 4-ish years ago, and so I just went off on this spree of I've got to find out everything I can, and I'm like was just eating it up. But I was still loving my coaching career, and then I had a few circumstances where I wasn't loving the coaching career so much. A couple of people that I was working with, and I was just like, oh, this just doesn't feel like what I need it to be. So I made the decision, okay, this is it. I'm going to jump. But if I'm going to jump, I'm going to jump, and I'm going to do it really in a way that feels very much like me. And I knew it was going to be women. Like I knew that's where when I work with other women, there's no ego. And I knew that I was running away from ego, Robin. I know that the couple of people I'm talking about, there was ego. I'm not going to, there's no ego when I work with women. That's my experience. So I'm going to run away from the ego. And then when I really started to think about where I can add the most value and who I enjoy working with the most, that's when it became, yeah, it's divorcing women. So I'd had a lot of divorced clients when I was a financial advisor, and I knew the journey they'd been on. I knew the experiences they were having, and I knew how much help they needed. And for me, it's about serving, and it's about actually really being in a place where you add value to someone. And that's all resonated. And like as soon as I had made that decision, it all came together, and I knew the path that I was on. Sorry, a very long answer.
No, it's a beautiful answer. And so many times there you've talked about how it felt, and you were basically listening to your body, and it was saying, oh, not there, this. And when you talked about how you came across lifestyle financial planning for the first time, and just you could see how it lit you up, and that whole that's what I love so much, that being able to tune in being able to tune into your body, know what it's telling you, that this is right for me, this is not right for me. Bless you.
Where the sneezing. Another one.
Something's coming out. Knowing this feels right for me, this doesn't, and listening to that and following that, and to where it's led you now.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that's such a fantastic example and modeling of what we're here to do. I think we're here to be more ourselves, and to obviously then when you get to that point, you just come alive, you light up, and you shine a light that supports other people too.
Yes, I think so. And I don't think I previously knew how to tune into that, and I quite intuitively tuned into it at the time I was making some decisions. But now, now I feel it, Robin. Like I really do get drawn or pushed, and I know I kind of lean into that and know, yeah, this is right. This is for me.
And I think it does start in our intuition, but the more we listen to it, I think the more we understand its vocabulary, we are much more attuned to those feelings of, oh, that's a strong push. Whereas before it might just have been a little niggle, but now because you're listening, because you've tuned in, it's like tuning in that radio, isn't it? Well, it's probably
Yeah.
very old fashioned, tuning in a radio. Maybe nobody knows
Yeah.
that. But that whole sense of I'm just getting on that frequency, my vibe, my vibration, and I know just instinctively, intuitively, instantly now, because you've honed it so beautifully, just what's right
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it gives you confidence to kind of keep moving in the right direction. And gives you confidence just to do business as well, Robin, you know. I know who I like to work with, and it isn't kind of doing, it doesn't ever feel like I'm ever selling anything. I am just helping and working and supporting, and it's just really easy to be like that.
Because you find the exact right place, so you know that you are doing, because as well, having found that niche that is so you, that is using your gifts for what they were designed for,
Yeah.
it means that
Yes.
you are drawing in the people who need you. So it isn't selling, it's
Yeah.
just, you need this, here it is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which is why,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And actually, for me, it just makes it more of a joy because there's never any push or pull. It's just, we're just there. We just are there on the same page straight away.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's why you were saying about how it just gives you confidence and you just know you're doing the right thing, because the clients who are your soul clients are attracted to the energy that you're putting out. And just,
Yeah.
yes, that's for me. They're not having to be persuaded, so there's no sell. It's just, oh, but that's what I need. There's no
Yeah.
question. It's a no-brainer. It's
Yeah.
a hell yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I had a client this morning who said exactly that. He said exactly that. And you're just like, yeah, I know this is what you need. Let's do it. Yeah.
So going in a slightly different tangent then, I know that you recently took on a gorgeous little puppy. Well, I say little, I don't think
Not
he's so little anymore.
not so little.
So can you tell me a little bit about your connection with animals and nature?
Yeah, absolutely. So Waffle is the first dog we've had for 5 years. We lost our last dog 5 years ago. And I had a real gap. And I knew it was there, Robin. Like, I knew it was missing. But there's a grief when you lose a pet. There's a grief when you lose part of your family. That's what it was. And now that Waffle is here, oh my goodness, the joy. It's unfounded, the amount of joy he brings and he has brought. And he is just filling something that was just so obviously missing to me. And yeah, so that has been huge. But the dogs that we had previously, so I had two from the same litter. They were a cross between a husky and a King Charles Spaniel, so they were quite unique. And we lost one dog fairly early on. He was knocked over, sadly. And then our last dog, Ice, was with us for quite a long time. And the last years of his life, he was diabetic and he needed lots of help and lots of support. But he brought so much love and he was such a massive, massive part of our family. And that's always been kind of I suppose my interaction with animals has always been through dogs. As a child, we had dogs. And it was always that sense of having them within my life. And they bring you into nature, Robin. You know, I've walked more since I've had Waffle in the last 6 months than I did in the 5 years before. And today it's raining. Would I have gone for a walk at 11 o'clock this morning? No way. But we're out there and we're loving it. I should have gone for the walk at 7 o'clock this morning. It took me till 11 o'clock to persuade him because it was raining. He's not a big fan of the rain. By 11 o'clock, he was desperate to go.
Yeah.
So we've just been out in it. But bring you into nature. And the other thing that I really notice is because just the way that my working life is now, and I have the time to walk him in the day, I'm on my own. Previously, when we would have walked our dog, it would have been a family affair. But because I'm on my own, I do really get this chance. He's taking me to a space where he's off doing his thing, but I can really step into nature and just observe and notice. And I've been on a bit of a spiritual journey the last year, and like daily, Robin, like I'm walking down the street and I'm like, I'll think of something, and then there'll be a sign, and it freaks me out, and I'll be like, this dog is really helping me on this journey because he keeps showing me things, and I keep getting to places, and I keep kind of getting reminded about how wonderful the universe is and what's going on, big picture.
And I love that perfect example of just how everything is so interconnected. It's because you have Waffle and he's getting you outside and you're seeing and learning more through him and through nature, and just how it all comes together. And it's such a beautiful whole, really, isn't it? That oneness of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. He's my little buddy. I'm really happy.
Yeah, delighted. So can you then tell me who inspires you, who even over time, not necessarily right now, but over time, who have been your inspirations?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of what I value and kind of what has been a driving force for me has come from my family. And I think when you're a little girl and you're looking up to your parents, it's quite a natural way to kind of view your future. And so my parents have been a big inspiration to me, both of them, for very, very different reasons. And then kind of more recently, my brother became self-employed. My brother's been self-employed always, actually. I'm saying became self-employed. His recent company he's run for about 5 years, but I can't actually remember the last time my brother was employed. He's had various different companies. And there's an inspiration that comes from being in enough confidence in what you do to do it your own way. So he's been a huge, huge inspiration for me, definitely. And then if we kind of look wider and further afield, I am a feminist, and so kind of feminine icons do really stand out for me. So Michelle Obama has been long time somebody that I've just really had kind of a real admiration for, and felt like, that here's a woman who's a woman but strong and able to really cast wide, a message that is really having a huge impact on the world.
I love
What
that.
about you, Robin?
Yeah, Michelle Obama would have been somebody that I would, those people, those women who can be feminine and strong. I love, and they don't feel the need to shout. They don't feel the need to take on masculine energy. They can just, so Brene Brown, Marianne Williams, people like that.
Hey, Brown.
Just,
yeah,
I'm in awe, because I was somebody growing up who was always very much feeling small as a girl, as a woman, as a feminine energy. And I always felt that masculine energy was so big and overpowering, and I felt in comparison.
Yeah.
So to see these women who role model feminine strength, vulnerability as strength, not having to change and still being strong. And I think, I love that myself.
Yeah, I think it's a real power. It's a real power.
Super
Brown, by the way, like that woman, she talks to my soul. I'm just like, I watch or I read her, and I'm like, she gets it. She gets it totally.
And there are women who are in a male world, the ones that we've mentioned, like Michelle Obama and Marianne Williamson, and even Brene Brown, because she's out there doing TED Talks and stuff. And we think quite often of men. Traditionally, men were the ones who spoke. Women were more in the background. And it's not been that way for completely for a number of years, but still there is a predominance of men. Simon Sinek, and you can come out with loads of names of men, but the names of women probably are fewer. And yet it's
Yeah.
amazing to see them, and it's great. I think they're probably increasing in number, because I think more and more we're becoming aware of that need to bring in the feminine energy. So
I think so.
amazing.
I think so. I think it's something that we will just see grow from here. Absolutely. I think we are definitely a place where we're just not scared to be ourselves. You don't have to be a powerful woman now. You don't have to do anything different. You can just be you and be a powerful woman. And that's new and that's exciting.
And for me, our purpose, we maybe when when you're at school, you're asked what you want to be when you grow up or whatever. And because of that, possibly, and through culture and so on, we grow up thinking who I am is what I do. And my
Yeah.
do something, and to do something momentous if I want to make a mark on the world. But for me, my purpose is just to be me as I can possibly be. And that then leads on naturally into standing in my power. But to me, my power, my authentic power, is connection, creativity, choice, all of these wonderful things. And if that, leads to being a big name like Marianne or Michelle Obama or whatever, then that's how it's meant to be. But if not, then I'm still being a strong, powerful, amazing woman.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh God, this is the stuff that is so hard to teach, Robin. It's felt, isn't it? It's just
Absolutely.
experienced and felt. And it's if I could wave a wand and help people get there, I would. Help people just like we said at the beginning, just kind of breathe. It's like yes, and that's what you get from what you've just talked about. And if I could wave a wand and go back to kind of my 12-year-old self or my 21-year-old self, that's what I want her to know. Yeah.
And I think speaking and outward stuff is quite yang. So we're so used to being educated and being told things. We're not so used to just trust your gut. Listen to how you
Yeah.
feel. Take that breath and tune in. And like you say, that's what I want to put out there. That's the little ripple I want to send out into the universe. And in terms of a magic wand, wouldn't it be fantastic if you just do that and the whole world would reconnect with that knowing? We already know, but reconnect with that knowing. But I think at the same time, the fact that we can't is intentional, that we have to go on the journey so that we can
Yeah,
fully
I feel
realize
that.
it for ourselves and know it on that experiential level.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. It's hard though when you're on the journey and others around you aren't, isn't it, Robin? It's something that you just like when you and I talk and I can really get across what I mean. And then I don't have the language yet because it's such a new journey for me. And when I'm trying to explain it to others who are nowhere near on the journey, it's hard. And that's when I want the magic wand, because I just want, okay, like get to where I'm at, because it's a great place to be.
That's the thing, yeah. It's hard to, it's a challenge to look at others and think, you're really struggling. I wish I could help you out of your struggle, but in the same kind of time, I'm thinking there was something I read a while ago saying that what I do for you, I'm saying in effect that you cannot do for yourself. So
Yeah, yeah,
I have to let you, each of us are on our own paths and we're all following our own timeline. And yet we only have this moment of now. So there is no such thing as time in that sense. Everybody's in the right place at the right time for who they are. So I have to trust in you, trust in your journey. It's not mine, but hey, wouldn't the life world be boring if we all on the same journey? So
it really would be.
yeah,
Really.
but
Yeah.
sometimes I'm not sure magic wand. I want a Babel fish. If you've ever read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, a Babel fish.
I have, but
You
yeah,
stick a Babel fish in your
that's
ear,
yeah.
and it
You can hear less
translates.
languages.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
translates
yeah.
anything that another language that you don't understand. I want Babel fishes for everybody, so that when I'm talking about this stuff, they don't look at me like gone crazy. Energy stuff, no. But I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
there are more and more people who are kind of beginning to be intrigued, like you said about the lifestyle stuff, just wanting to gobble it all up. I think there are more and more people feeling attracted to, challenged by, intrigued by all of this energy feel.
I think so. I think so. Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Ceri, for joining me. It has been a pleasure and a delight to have you
Yeah.
here and to have this
It's
chat.
always a joy.
I think the work that you do is so essential, so wonderful. So I will share, when I post this, I will share some of your contact details so that people can know where to find you. And
Thank you.
thank you very much again.
Thank you, Robin. It's been an absolute joy. See you soon.
Yeah, bye for now.